Hello friends! Russia and Ukraine have been in conflict since ages. We see Russia claiming Ukraine, a territory of Russian kingdom, while Ukraine on the other side, stubborn over its sovereignty. So what's actually the issue? How did it start? Here in the video, we are just about to understand everything. Why is Russia so interested in Ukraine? This question has been on everyone's mind lately. To unravel the mystery, let's hop back in time. It's 1917. It's the Russian kingdom, and Ukraine is a part of it. But then, something big happens. What happened then? That the Red Armies of Lenin, who were a group of revolutionists, overthrow the government of the Russian kingdom. And for the first time, history evidenced that Ukraine got separated from Russia. But was this really independence for Ukraine? Not quite. The Red Armies, who had just overthrown the Russian kingdom, invaded Ukraine and captured it again. So what did this mean for Ukraine? Was it a willing participant or just a captive state? Let us put this question for you to ponder over it. Now, let's fast forward to 1922. A great union is formed, the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics, or USSR. For those who aren't aware that what was the USSR exactly, it was a union of 15 socialist republics. Naming all would cost a lot of time, so the only thing to focus here is the fact that Ukraine was one of those 15 countries, and hence was named as Soviet Socialist Republic of Ukraine. So by far, it's obvious that Ukraine was deliberately a part of Russian kingdom, first, and USSR, secondly. And it was never an independent state before. Now, as we move forward in time, we come to 1991, a date when history saw the humongous union got shattered into pieces, something that was going to strengthen the weak and unfortunately weaken the strong. The USSR got demolished, and Ukraine finally gains its independence from Russia. But this independence isn't without its challenges, because two schools of thought emerged among the Ukrainian people. On one hand, there were those who believed that Ukraine should be an independent nation with its own government and economy. They saw themselves as a unique nation with their own culture and traditions. On the other hand, there were those who believed that Ukraine and Russia share a common heritage and should be reunited. They point to their shared history, language, and culture as evidence that they are one people, the Slavic people. But what do the numbers say? According to a report by the Ukrainian Center for Economic and Political Studies, in 1991, 84% of Ukrainians voted in favor of independence. However, a significant minority, around 12%, opposed independence and favored closer ties with Russia. And the one person who belonged to the second school of thought was Vladimir Putin. Putin was obsessed with Ukraine, and his obsession with Ukraine is a fascinating yet complex topic. But the question is, what drives this fixation? For Putin, Ukraine is like a treasure he can't resist, much like a bee is drawn to honey. But why? The answer lies in his essay on the historical unity of Russians and Ukrainians, where he argues that Russians and Ukrainians are one people, belonging to what has historically been known as the triune Russian nation. Even he called this separation a mistake. But again, one must ask, was this view shared by Ukrainians? Not quite. Many Ukrainians saw themselves as a unique nation with their own culture and traditions, and wanted independence, and the numbers shared before are a proof. So what's next for Ukraine and Russia? Will Putin's vision of a unified Russian state prevail, Or will Ukraine forge its own path? Let's dive deep into the story. So, as the Soviet Union's iron grip finally loosened in 1991, Ukraine burst forth like a bird set free, its people eager to forge their own path. But they didn't realize that a lone bird in the hawk's territory is always vulnerable to be caught. And so was going to happen. In this case, the European Union saw another partner in Ukraine who would buy them access to Eastern Europe and become a reason for their dominance in the zone. So what the green pastures of future appeared lucrative to some of the Ukrainians, and a number of them got inclination towards joining EU. But as Ukrainians stood at the crossroads, a tantalizing question hung in the air. Would they remain independent or join the European Union? The answer, much like the country's future, hung precariously in the balance. According to whispers from the streets, a whopping 80% of Ukrainians were enamored with the idea of joining the EU, seeing it as a golden ticket to economic prosperity, military might, and a chance to join the global elite. President Leonid Kravchuk, Ukraine's first president after independence, was equally smitten, envisioning a brighter future for his country within the EU's embracing arms. But amidst this euphoric dream, a dark shadow loomed. President Putin, Russia's rising strongman, who watched Ukraine's westward leanings with growing unease. What secrets lay behind Putin's piercing gaze? Was it merely a case of geopolitical posturing, or did he harbor a deeper obsession with Ukraine? The truth, much like Ukraine's destiny, remained shrouded in mystery, waiting to be unraveled. And the story yet to come makes everything straight. Ukraine, a nation reborn from the ashes of the Soviet Union, found itself torn between two distinct paths: remaining independent or join the European Union. These two options seemed like the only choices on the table. But then, another player entered the scene. As we said before, the hungry hawk always eyes on the free bird. So what was this new player, and how would it change the game for Ukraine? The answer lies in the acronym NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Now, what exactly is NATO? In simple, NATO is an alliance of 32 countries from Europe and North America, united by a shared commitment to democracy, individual liberty, and the rule of law. Its core promise is that an attack on one member state is considered an attack on all. As Ukraine weighed its options, NATO's presence loomed large, and surprisingly, some Ukrainians began to see the alliance as a viable option. According to a 2008 Gallup poll, 43% of Ukrainians supported joining NATO, while a 2014 report by the Ukrainian Institute for International Studies found that a majority of Ukrainians believed NATO membership would strengthen their country's security. It seemed Ukraine was now split into three camps: those who championed independence, those who advocated for EU membership, and those who saw NATO as the key to a safer future. The question on everyone's mind was, which path would Ukraine ultimately choose? And that's where our story ends for now. As Ukraine stands at the crossroads of its future, the question remains, will it choose independence, align with the European Union, or join NATO? The decision is far from simple, and its consequences could shape the region for years to come. But this is just the beginning. In the next part of this series, we'll dive even deeper into the geopolitics, Putin's ambitions, and the complex relationship between Russia and Ukraine. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for the next episode as we unravel the rest of the story.